certified coach Christopher McCollum.
More like it. Thank you, Dick Warren, and thank you, my dear listener, for listening. We had a little technical difficulty. We had a little glitch. We had a little whoops. We had a little, I don't know what that was. But thank you for hanging with us, and thanks for being with us for another edition of the Coaching Show. We're going to learn a lot today. Going to be focusing on the entrepreneurial mindset, as well as just some basic things that you need to do if you're already doing it, if you're not already doing it, ways that you can enhance the business part of your business. We're also going to be talking about career coaching executives and talking about how people can thrive in their career, including you and me. So, see, sounds like a reasonable, wonderful, reasonable show, right? We're going to learn a lot, and let me introduce you to, as you know, lately we've been having coaches on who are our guest co-host, so that you can learn more about coaches out in the world, in the neighborhood, people that are doing something in the world of coaching that's either interesting, good, useful, or the like. And we have such a guest with us today. Maria G. is a professional business and life coach. Her background is corporate management, team building and development, as well as luxury travel. I like her already. Maria earned a business management degree in Beijing, China, graduated from the coaches training program at Accomplishment Coaching. I'm going to learn to speak today, too. That's going to be exciting. And is currently a mentor coach in that program. She partners with leaders, managers, and teams to dramatically improve their ability to communicate, deliver on their goals, and transform their behaviors and habits. Maria, welcome to our microphones.
Thank you, Christopher. So it's so honored to be on your show.
Well, thanks for being had, as we like to say. Hey, look around outside. Where do you find yourself today?
Oh, it's great. I think this is a perfect theme for me because I also myself is an entrepreneur, and so and I coach. Most of my clients are entrepreneurs too. I'm excited about this.
Sorry, I may have gone really fast there for you. I was asking where in the world you are. What part of the world, what town are you in?
I'm in Campbell River. This is a small little town with 35,000 people on Vancouver Island.
Oh, beautiful. Campbell River, Vancouver Island. Very good. And if people want to, if they, as I have, just fall in love with you and want to talk to you more, how should they reach you?
They can find me on my website, mariajicoaching.com.
Great.
Or my email, maria@mariagcoaching.com.
Great. So your name is Maria G, but G is spelled J-I. So it's MARIAJI coaching.com. And all your information, a nice picture, and more information about how to reach you and how people can work with you is available there. What's the ideal client for you? Who are you working with these days?
Entrepreneurs, management professionals.
Great. Okay, so if people want to see their vision realized, if people are stuck in some sort of a rut of thinking or behavior in their management, they should reach out and contact you at mariagcoaching.com. Great. Let's talk about today's show. So actually, I'm sorry. I feel like a beginner again today. It's only been 16 years or something like that, so forgive me for being a knucklehead. I need to shout out to a couple of things. One is a sad note. Are you ready for a sad note? Let's all say aw.
Aww.
Yeah. So after 4 years, maybe it's been 5, of media partnership with the International Coach Federation, something we've been proud of, something we've been talking about on this show for, over 4 or 5 years, is we're separating, we're parting ways. We're no longer going to be an ICF media partner. You can ask me why. I don't really know why. My suspicion is that they got their own shows going and that they want to stop being partners in that way. But I received a communication from a company called Stanton Communications, which makes me think they're in the communications business, that this would be our last show. So I want to thank them for all of their support of us, and I want to acknowledge them for all the fine work that the people at the Federation do, the International Coach Federation. It is, as you know, the leading global organization dedicated to advancing the coaching profession. They do that by setting high standards, providing independent certification, and by building a worldwide network of trained coaching professionals. The ICF, also known as The International Coach Federation is the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches, but also the place where you can find the most information about coaching, research, educational information. If you need to respond to an RFP, if you need to prove the ROI of coaching, if you need to prove the legitimacy of your particular coaching, check out the ICF and their amazing archives and research storehouses over there. Also, of course, membership elicits instant credibility for ICF members. ICF connects professional coaches with the tools and resources we need to exceed in our careers. Maria, do you up there in beautiful Campbell River, BC, do you have an ICF chapter? Do you go see other coaches from time to time?
Yeah, there's chapters in Victoria, and sometimes also meet in Mid-Island.
Gotcha. So you gotta find it sometimes, but it's true for people who live in, far off places like Campbell River, BC, or people that live in a city near you. Check it out. The ICF is available on coachfederation.org, and you can find anything you want there, including local events and chapter meetings. You can also follow them on Twitter at ICFHQ. That's at ICFHQ. And anything you want to say about ICF or ICF membership or accreditation, Maria?
Yeah, I have been ICF member for about 5 years now, and they're fabulous organizations. And through certain trainings, I also met coaches in China who are also ICF members, and they are certified PCC, and it's lots of resources available on their website. And also they say chapters on the island because we're so spread out, and they actually get my contact information and reach out to me and let me know when they have regular meetings or on the Up Island.
All right. Hey, Maria, tell us something about your background, because I think people by now are deciding that you don't sound Canadian. What's your personal background?
Oh, I'm Chinese. I moved to Canada 13 years ago.
From?
From China.
Yeah, where in China? Where were you?
Beijing.
Oh, straight from Beijing. Wow.
Straight from Beijing. 28 million people.
Into Campbell River, 35,000.
35,000, yes.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Again, that's Maria G. You can find her at Maria G. That's MariaJi, coaching.com. And we're delighted to welcome to our microphone our first guest. There's nothing better than running into people by being introduced to their work. And I first became aware of Dorie Clark through her work. And then I found out she's got just a fascinating bio, just a fascinating background. But I was introduced by the book Entrepreneurial You. It turns out that she's a multiple time author, award-winning author. She's also an extraordinary leader in a lot of different ways. Let's see if we can articulate them. She's an adjunct professor at Duke University, go Blue Devils, Fuqua School of Business. She's not only the author of Entrepreneurial You, but also Reinventing You and Stand Out, which was named the #1 leadership book of 2015 by Inc. magazine, no less. She's a former presidential campaign spokeswoman. The New York Times describes her as an expert in self-reinvention and helping others make changes in their lives, a frequent contributor to the HBR, Harvard Business Review. She consults and speaks for clients including Google, Microsoft, and World Bank. And here's the most interesting part for me. She's also the producer of a multiple Grammy Award-winning jazz album. You can find her on the web at Dorie Clark. That's DorieClark.com. And we're delighted to welcome to our microphone Dorie Clark. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being had, as we like to say. Hey, look around outside, Dorie. Where do you find yourself today in the world?
Well, I am at home right now. I am in New York City, so I'm looking out at some cavernous skyscrapers across the way.
It's a beautiful place to be from, as they say. All right. I think we've got a co-host today, Maria G., joining us from Campbell River,
Hello.
BC. Not exactly New York City. Let's talk about the work that I was introduced to you through, Entrepreneurial You. Is it a good idea to unleash a bunch of entrepreneurs on the world? Is this a good thing?
It could be a little dangerous, all of that entrepreneurial wattage just coursing through society's veins. But I think it's a pretty good idea, notably for a couple of reasons. One is that society is moving in a more entrepreneurial direction anyway. I experienced this firsthand myself because this is now a number of years ago, but I got laid off from my first job as a newspaper reporter, and I came to realize rather instantaneously exactly how fragile the so-called secure day job actually is. And so I think that having an entrepreneurial orientation and thinking about how you can create your own future is a pretty powerful hedge against the downside. But of course, the second reason is that there is a huge incentive on the upside. When you're an entrepreneur, you have autonomy. You have the ability, in theory, to make unlimited income based on the decisions that you make and the smarts you bring to the table. So it's pretty exciting from the perspective of seizing opportunity.
It is. I think that people think, and you know, I've got some personal experience with this. So I'm a CEO of an organization, right? And when I say that, I think people are thinking about like Warren Buffett or Jamie Dimon, you know, these sort of dynamic heads. And probably there's a similar thing when you talk about being an entrepreneur, right? People think of, I don't know, Elon Musk or somebody, right, who's out there killing it. But what I found recently about CEOs is that the average CEO of an organization has 3 employees. That organization has 3, the average.
Yes.
Right. And so what's the average entrepreneur? What's really happening out there in the world of entrepreneurship?
Well, in large part, the entrepreneurs that I often speak to in my books and in my writing are not necessarily people who are, you know, running large multi-hundred or thousand people organization. I'm especially interested in people who are oftentimes solopreneurs, or they are, you know, running, you know, smaller sized businesses. And part of what is exciting about that for me is that it really opens up a realm of opportunity. Not everyone wants or certainly needs to have this kind of classical, oh, let's get angel funding, let's get venture funding kind of entity. There are a lot of people who, even if they have a day job, even if they want to keep their day job, could very easily start something small on the side that both opens up new experiences to them, gives them an extra stream of income, teaches new things, whether that's in coaching or consulting or speaking or maybe creating an online course, something like that. And I feel like that is really perhaps the largest untapped opportunity that most professionals can move into pretty easily and without, you know, unlike starting some business and signing a 10-year lease, getting themselves into a precarious position.
So you're a huge fan, I'm getting, of the side hustle. No matter what sort of fancy position title or senior vice president of Paperclips you may be, you think people should get their entrepreneurial move on and start creating something. Ideally, not driving Uber, but something in the entrepreneurial space. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that what many people don't fully recognize is that when you do that, there are actually benefits that redound to you even in your day job if you have one. For instance, in my book Entrepreneurial You, I profile a guy named Lenny Achan who was a nurse at a hospital, and he was ultimately able to work up to becoming the head of communications for the hospital, which is a really, you know, almost bizarre career arc. You know, it's not what would at all be expected of a nurse. But the way that he did it was that it was strictly on the basis of his side hustle. He got really interested in smartphones and smartphone apps. He learned on his own time how to create them, and he launched a couple. And when his boss found out, his boss made him the head of social media for the hospital. And Lenny did such a great job, he ultimately was promoted to run the entire communications portfolio. So the things that you show initiative in and learn in your own time, your own entrepreneurial ventures, can actually get you promotions and recognition in your day job as well.
I really want to follow the thread of social media there, but I'm aware that you and I have been sort of talking quickly over, and I want to make sure Maria gets in here. Maria, have you got a question for Dory or something you want to talk about?
Yeah, totally. I have clients are interested, say myself too, is I wanted to speak to a large audience and to get paid to doing that. And how did you break into that? Like what suggestions do you have for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking is definitely a common goal. I feel like public speaking is one of those activities that nobody's in the middle. It's sort of like you either think it's horrible and want to hide from it, or you're like, oh my God, I'd love to be paid to do that. So for the people who would love to be paid to do that, I actually do have a whole chapter in Entrepreneurial You talking about it. But the very short version is this. In the beginning, in the early days, literally almost everybody, unless you have celebrity from some different realm, you're a professional athlete or, whatever, you will need to start speaking for free. That's just to get your name out there, to get the experience, to get good at it, frankly. So take all the free engagements you can get initially. But in terms of how to transition into getting paid for it, it is very hard. Not impossible, but maybe close to it in terms of statistics, to pitch your way into a paid speaking engagement. The dynamic is that there are so many aspiring speakers. The people who are the gatekeepers, the conference organizers, really want to feel like they are choosing you. And so you actually, in some ways, diminish your credibility when you come at them. So the best secret is to try to get a warm referral. And some of the ways to do this, for instance, if you target a particular conference you'd like to speak at, you should, number one, look at the people who have spoken there in the past and see if you know any of them, because they might be able to recommend you. That is a very strong path in. Another possibility is, LinkedIn is great for this. Look at people who are on the conference organizing committee. See if you have any connections to those people, and they might be a path to a recommendation.
That's a great idea.
Oh, that's a great idea to speak to the past speakers. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back to the social media, because I just spent a whole lot of money and time in a room with people who were smart, and they just sort of yelled at me about all the things I'm not doing on social media, and how come I'm not in LinkedIn, and how come I'm not amassing my list. You also talk about the power of social media and are surprisingly a fan of email, which I think some of us think, maybe email's over. So tell us about the importance of social media in terms of getting your message out there and becoming an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So there's a few different layers of answers here, right? So the first layer is that, is it important to be on social media just in the sense that you have a presence, people can find you, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Yes, absolutely. At this point, something like a LinkedIn profile it's considered like a website. It's sort of just a basic way that people find you. And so unless you literally launched your business yesterday, it is going to seem really weird for people if you don't have that. If they're like, is this person credible? Why are they not here? So having a decently filled out, robust LinkedIn profile, for instance, is something that I would say is virtually mandatory for professionals. Now, that being said, I think a lot of people can overdo it with social media. It is very easy to spend, theoretically, all your time on social media and convince yourself, oh yeah, I'm doing business development, when really you're just like retweeting things and posting, and it's kind of like a make work activity that masks from you the reality that you're kind of playing around and not really generating business. So what I like to say is, do you need to have a presence? Yes, but you shouldn't let it take over your life. I would say spend 1 to 2 hours on social media per week. That's it. Other than that, of course, unless you're a social media consultant or something and it's your job, but for a regular person, 1 to 2 hours a week should be very sufficient in terms of targeted outreach. Email is the thing that I really stress in Entrepreneurial You. You are exactly right. The reason for that is that it's the thing that professionals still read. If you're posting on Twitter, studies have shown that about, if you're lucky, 2% of your followers will see a given post. It's just a terrible hit rate. Whereas for almost all email, the average open rate is, let's say, 20 to 30% from an email blast. That is a 10x improvement. And these people have opted in. They've said they want to hear from you. It is a much better and much more intimate and in-depth way to reach your target audience.
Nice. Any tips about what should or should not be in the email that we send out? For example, I have this thing about I don't click on links. Is that everybody or is that just me?
Well, I think it might be just you, although not a bad move from the position of like hackers or
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with links. But the thing that I see that is most problematic in the universe of people that I mostly speak to, so let's say consultants or coaches or people like that, is that oftentimes the email newsletter is really nothing more than kind of a promotional flyer.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, here's a picture of me speaking at an event. Here's a list of all the events that I spoke at. Oh, look, in case you want to hire me, here's how you can hire me. And it's just kind of me focused. And of course, there's a small audience of people, like your close friends or your family or whatever, that would be very interested. Oh my God, you spoke in Missouri? That's incredible. But most clients, most regular people will be like, who cares about this?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's very important to make sure that in your communications you have a customer-focused orientation and that you're creating content, articles or posts or things like that where they say, oh, thank you for sending this. This is really interesting and relevant to me.
So to provide value, that's the key.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm curious about, often people say, oh, I don't like my job. I want to start doing something, have this brilliant idea, but I'm so scared, or I'm not a self-employed type of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what suggestions or advice you have for them? Like, what should they watch out?
Sure. So I think first of all, that's actually a very sensible reaction. So I would commend people for that, because I think that oftentimes in our culture we have the way that entrepreneurship gets talked about, we kind of veer to the opposite extreme, which is, oh, just jump off the cliff, yeah, make it happen, take the risk, and that's often a really terrible plan if you're somebody who's a grown up and has responsibilities. What I like to advise instead is, yeah, be cautious, be careful. That's a good move. I think that it is very smart to, if you have a goal of entrepreneurship, to try to create a horizon for yourself. And in my case, when I shifted into entrepreneurship, my sort of launch pad was about a year. I think even 2 to 3 years planning in advance is a great idea. And just strategically say, you know what, this is my goal for whatever it is, 2020, 2021. And you start making slow and incremental progress toward it. And you do the things in a manageable fashion that you need to do. You take the courses, you sign up for the trainings, you read the books, you start doing small tests of your service or product offering to see, do people actually seem interested? Do they want to buy it? And you test it out so that by the time you're ready to quote unquote make the leap, it's actually not much of a leap at all, because you've already validated your offering and you have gained the skills that you need so that when you move into it full time, you can be successful.
That's such a great note for all of us, especially those timid to get in the water. Dory, our time has flown by. I'm going to be in New York City in a couple of weeks. I'm going to do everything I can to have a cup of coffee with you. But in our last moment together, will you give us a parting thought or a parting shot, something you'd like 50,000 coaches or so to think about, do, or take on today?
Absolutely. I think that one of the best concepts that I learned in the course of writing Entrepreneurial You was one that came from my interview with a guy named Michael Parrish Dudell. And he's a consultant. He's the author of a book based on the Shark Tank TV show. And he broke things down into mind share and market share activities. And I think it's kind of a nice frame. The way that he thinks about things is that the market share activities, as he defines it, is things that make him money, but often are invisible. It's like the coaching assignment, the consulting assignment. It's not very visible or public. You're just working with a small group of people, but it brings in the revenue, and so that's important. But you can't just do that, because otherwise you're going to be the best kept secret. You also need to focus on market market share activities. These are often unpaid. It's blogging for publications, being interviewed in the news, getting yourself out there. But when you do it, it's highly visible and it leads to more market share activities down the road. So if you can think about balancing both in your business, that is pretty important. And so if you're interested in learning more about that and about creating other multiple income streams in your business, I do have a free resource, which is the 88-question Entrepreneurial You Self-Assessment, and folks can get that for free at my website, doryclark.com.
/entrepreneur to get to a little more easily. Again, the website is Dory Clark, DORIECLARK.com. Check it out. There's lots there, and I love how you capture us right at the beginning. Dory Clark, thanks for being with us. More in a moment.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe, ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Are you seeking to change your career to something that is both fulfilling and challenging? Do you want to help people reach their full potential and strive to achieve their dreams? Would you like to inspire those around you and help create a better world? If you're serious about a career change or just want to explore the craft of personal coaching, contact Accomplishment Coaching. With locations across the country in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Chicago, New York City, and San Diego, Accomplishment Coaching is the leading institution in personal coaching. Our staff carefully monitors the entire program, live during the training process, and have met the strict standards of ICF International to achieve accreditation. Through a focus on quality instruction rather than endless modules of training, Accomplishment Coaching will guide you from your very first step all the way to becoming one of the finest coaches in the world. Visit AccomplishmentCoaching.com to learn more. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach.
Christopher McAuliffe is your source for the latest in the world of personal coaching. Whether it be speaking with such luminaries as Deepak Chopra or getting the newest techniques and innovation, the coaching show is always on the cutting edge of what's happening now.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to The Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
Hello. There I am. I knew I was right around here somewhere. Hey, I wanted to, if you're watching the YouTube, well, God bless you if you are, because who watches this stuff? But if you do, here's the book, Entrepreneurial You by Dory Clark. Forgive me for not holding it up and referencing it. I was too busy treasuring it and holding it in my little precious things box. Again, Entrepreneurial You by Dory Clark. You can find out more by going to doryclark.com. That's DORIECLARK.com, and get your free assessment by going /entrepreneur there. All right, I want to let you know about Maria G. Maria G is a coach, a business and professional life coach. She hails from Campbell River, BC, which is not where she does most of her work. She does most of her work with entrepreneurs and business owners and with management teams and individuals who are out to break up their habits and really create what's next for them. You can find out more about Maria G by going to mariagcoaching.com. That's not the letter G, that's MariaJI coaching.com. MariaJI coaching.com. Maria, say hello to the people.
Hello.
Hello. That's Maria G joining us from Campbell River, BC. She's our guest co-host today, obviously not in studio because she's in her beautiful palatial mansion in BC. But I wanted to let you know, my dear listener, about something. If like me, you like the finest things in life. If you're draped in, Tiffany and Cartier, if you're, if you go shopping in the Tesla store for your next car, then you, see what I did there? Then you are like me, and you are always looking for the finest, the best things in life. If you're looking for coach training, ICF accredited coach training, of course, the finest in the world is accomplishment coaching. And it's not hype, it's not a slogan, it's actually true. From the beginning, Accomplishment Coaching has designed their coaches training program to be the finest in the world. By any measure, by the success of their graduates, by the number of actual hours of coaching given, by the number of actual hours of coaching received, by the number of evaluations of coaching sessions with your clients, just tons and tons of value there. More books read, more movies watched, more massages and field trips than any other coach training program. Check it out, accomplishmentcoaching.com. Now, Maria, I know you were trained at
About massage, it's completely true.
It
You
is.
get massage.
It is. It's not that kind of program, but it's, a normal, yeah. Anyway, Maria, you've been through Accomplishment Coaching. What would you like people to know about it?
Yeah, I'm graduate from 2013. At the time, I was managing a large chain boxing store in Canada, and yeah, I just jumped the ship after I graduated because I loved the training there. I have learned so much, and I already had clients that I worked with. And oh, by the way, before I quitting, my store won so many national-wide prizes because through coaching, my leadership through coaching.
Beautiful. So one of the things I love about Accomplishment Coaching is you can actually go and observe the training in process. That is, look behind the curtain, so to speak. It's not a sales presentation. It's not a workshop for yourself. It's so that you can actually see the coach training program in process. You can, let's see, Maria, can you remember all the cities where Accomplishment Coaching is available in North America?
Yeah. Well, first in Canada, in Victoria.
Yes.
Seattle, Washington, D.C., New York, San Diego.
And Chicago, Illinois. Very
Chicago.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're near or visiting any of those cities, please check it out. Accomplishment Coaching is available on accomplishmentcoaching.com. Come and find out what makes it the world's finest coach training program and find out if it's for you. You can also go on the web, accomplishmentcoaching.com, and very nice people will talk to you about their work there. All right. Let's talk about our next guest, because this is critically important. More and more people are dealing with, as we just talked about, the side hustle and whether or not their job is fulfilling or is this the right career path for them. Susan Peppercorn is an executive and career coach who enables mid and senior level professionals to find their next best career step, their promotion, their new job, their career or entrepreneurial option. She's the author of a new Amazon best-selling book, Ditch Your Inner Critic: Evidence-Based Strategies to Thrive in Your Career. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, HBR, the Boston Globe, and U.S. News & World Report are some of the publications that have tapped her for career advice. She is also a certified positive psychology coach and a graduate of the Certificate in Positive Psychology and accredited by the International Coaching Federation. Please welcome to our microphone Susan Peppercorn. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Susan.
Good morning.
Hi. Maria, find out where Susan's from. Find out where she is today, would you?
Okay. So,
That's
Susan,
me delegating.
where are you today?
I am in Boston today. That is my home base.
And wicked smart you are for being in Boston.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about being both a positive psychology coach and working with people in their career. It seems like the place people are often least positive in their lives is around their career. What had you come out with this book, Ditch Your Inner Critic, and what is it that has people get to a positive place when they look at career issues?
So the reason that I wrote this book is because I've noticed that in my own coaching practice, over and over again, clients that I work with suffer with either perfectionistic tendencies or a highly critical inner voice that holds them back from success and greater happiness. And I, too, suffered from this as well. And so what positive psychology brings to the table is research done by social scientists that actually show and provide strategies as to how people can deal with these issues.
Maria, do you want to get in here? Sorry, that was me
Yeah,
giving you
totally.
space.
And what are the
If you don't have anything, you can toss it right back to me.
Yeah, no, I do, I have
Okay.
it. And I was going to ask that why people are not happy about their jobs. You know, some people are high up there, CEO or in the executive position, and, you know, they get paid well, and from outside, people envy them for the job they have. So how come they're unhappy? What's the cause of that?
So, Maria, that's a great question. And what research has shown is that external goals like a high-level title or more money make people happy for a short period of time, but they quickly adapt to that new situation and it's back to the status quo. Also, those are external goals that somebody else has set, and if the job they're doing is not aligned, with their interests, their values, and what gives them meaning, then no matter how successful they are externally, they're going to be wanting something more. And that's the reason that people, no matter how they look externally, often are very unhappy.
It's true. We all know those people that are successful but miserable, right? I used to be one of those people before I found a coach and then became one. Let's talk about, I want to go back to the sort of the tagline or the subtitle of your book, Ditch Your Inner Critic, Evidence-Based Strategies to Thrive in Your Career. You pointed to that a moment ago by saying this is research-based stuff by social psychologists who have found that there are better ways to thrive in your career. I guess we have to ask what thriving in the career is, but also give us some strategies, please. What'll work? What should we be doing?
So, one of the things you'll notice in my book is that there are exercises at the end of every chapter. And I had part of my audience for writing this book was actually coaches, because as you know, as coaches yourself, that asking powerful questions is the way to have a client reassess some of the assumptions that they may be making. And so a lot of the strategies are based around reframing the story that somebody is telling themselves. And that's why the exercises are actually there. They are meant to provide coaching assistance to those people who may not be fortunate enough to have a coach, to really question the assumptions that they're making about what happiness is or isn't, why they're in a career that may not be satisfying to them, what other options may be available, how they view failure, how that may be framing their experience. So all of these things are based in research that most people never know about. Social psychologists write in journals, and the big joke is that, other than the author's parents, probably about 7 people ever get to read a journal article. And, frankly, most journal articles, they're written in a particular way. They're dry, they're boring, they have a lot of statistics. But what I tried to do in this book is take the best of the research that's been done into how and why people thrive and make it approachable. So as a teacher of mine, Tal Ben-Shahar, used to say, it's a way of bridging the ivory tower and Main Street. And that's really what I was trying to do by citing the research, but in such a way that it's approachable by the average reader.
Nice. What I'm wondering, Maria, and forgive me if I'm stepping on you here, is this. we were just talking with Dory Clark about the entrepreneurial streak that everybody seems to be having these days.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but everybody I meet has a side hustle, right? They're either like driving Uber or making and selling jewelry on Etsy or something, right, on the side. And I guess I have two questions. The first, Susan, is are we asking too much of our work or our job if we're looking there for happiness? And the second is, what's your thinking about this sort of side hustle economy that we're building, where people have one or two main things that they do and then always something on the side?
So I think these are great questions. And to your first one, I would say, are we making too much of our day job, let's say? I think the answer in many cases is yes, because let's look at it this way. Someone can be in a job and they may not be happy in that job, but they, for a number of reasons, may not be able to leave. Maybe they have a family to support. Maybe they don't have the financial resources to leave. And so I would say to you that a side hustle, whether it's bringing in money or not, is a really great way that people can develop things that they're interested in and kind of mitigate the effects of a job that is not a perfect fit for them. So I think there's a lot to be said for the side hustle, and it doesn't work for everyone, but I think whether it's an interest that someone pursues, again, whether they get paid for it or not, is definitely worth pursuing if it's something that's meaningful and is interesting to the individual.
Really well said. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Maria, get on in here. What do you got?
Yeah. And I have so many questions. Well, what's the secret ingredients? You know, the strategy that you are suggesting, and so I'm curious about what makes separate people who deals failure per se or difficulties at work, and they're able to thrive, and some people just could not see themselves to overcome whatever they're facing. What's the secret ingredient?
So the secret ingredient is really how someone views failure. There's a famous psychologist at Stanford, Carol Dweck. She wrote a book called Mindset, and she puts people into two general categories: those people who have a fixed mindset and those people who have a growth mindset. And the answer to how people deal with failure really has to do with their mindset. So if someone has a fixed mindset, they expect that they're not going to fail. Let's say they've been successful in school, they've gotten into the best colleges, they've had a good career, and all of a sudden they're hit by some kind of setback. They're not prepared for it, and they don't know how to cope with it because they think that this shouldn't happen to them. On the other hand, people who have a growth mindset really expect that failure is part of everyday life, and they look at failure as something that they can learn from. And I'll tell you, in my own experience, I coach a lot of scientists or people in the life sciences, and
I'm
have
sorry.
learned...
Go ahead.
What's that?
I'm just teasing. I said I'm so sorry for you, and I apologize to people.
Scientists are fantastic. I mean, they're bringing so many wonderful cures to the world. I'm in awe of what they do, but they'll tell you that failure is part of what they have to deal with on a regular basis, and it's through the setbacks that they have when they're doing experiments that they learn to self-correct and figure out what's going to work. So they view failure as part of the landscape of their work and a very important part of informing how they move forward to success. So that's really the difference between people who let failure stop them and those that can move through it and use it as a learning experience.
Great question, Maria. Do you have another one?
Yeah, and it's very inspiring when you're saying that it's how we view the failure would decide what making that decisions that we're making. So what do you suggest to people? Like how can they, like, you know, the right mindset or wrong mindset? Like how do you work with people? How do you make sure that they view failure differently?
So through questioning, as you know, again, as most coaches do, you know, if they say to me, so I'll give you an example. Some of the people that I work with have been laid off from their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Most often, this has nothing to do with the quality of their work. It's a corporate reorganization, a restructuring, a merger and acquisition, and they are left without a job. Now, some people, when this happens to them, they do see it as a failure because they say to themselves, well, if only I had done this, that, or the other thing differently, I wouldn't have been the person laid off.
Mm-hmm.
So through questioning, I will say to them, well, is there another way to look at this, for example? You know, is there something that you can take from this experience that you can use to find, you know, a better job or, you know, find greater success or greater happiness the next time? So it's really about creating awareness with them that they may have self-limiting thinking around what happened to them and to help them see it in a different way. Sometimes I use writing exercises. That can be really beneficial, you know, to have people journal or write about what's happened to them. It's different than just thinking about it. And sometimes it's using, you know, questioning techniques to say, is there another way to look at what happened to you? Or if this were your best friend, for example, what would you say to your best friend if they were the one going through this and not you? So those are just some ideas off the top of my head.
I would say to my best friend, stop whining, but that's why I don't have any friends.
And I say that too.
Oh, very good. Let's you know, I'm teasing. Let's go back a couple of steps, because I heard you point to perfectionists, and I think at least a lot of the people that I work with, and you know, God help them, are perfectionists and think that that's how. That they have to continue to be perfectionists because that's how they got to their lofty level of success. And yet it seems clear as an observer to their life that it's really just sucking the life out of their life, the joy, the positive experience. What's a first step, or what's one of the fundamental pieces that you would love all coaches everywhere to take on with their perfectionist clients today?
So the first thing I'd like all coaches to know is that there's a difference between perfectionism and excellence. All of us strive for excellence, and that's the way it should be, whether it's excellence in our coaching, whether it's bringing out excellence in our coachees. That's what we should be striving for, but there is a difference. And the difference is that perfectionists can't let go of things. So I'll give you an example that I think is kind of funny. Hopefully your listeners will too. But there was a book written a number of years ago it was in the Dummy series of books on making successful career transitions. And the author had a quote in there, and he said, "Don't spend as much time on your resume as you would a prenuptial agreement." So I bring that up as an example because many times when I'm working with a perfectionist, and if they are in career transition, they will keep revising and revising and revising and revising their resume. And I'll use this as an example, but people who are perfectionists in their jobs do the same thing. They never believe that good enough is good enough. And what happens to them then is they get stuck. Because, you know, you and I know businesses move quickly, whether it's tech, whether it's biotech, whether it's marketing, whatever industry it is. People set goals. Those goals are oftentimes very aggressive. And if people, you know, keep trying to dot every I and cross every T, they're going to fall behind in achieving their goals. And also, I will say to you that perfectionists tend to micromanage, which also is very demoralizing for people that work for them. So the key is to, again, through awareness, it's really creating awareness with the client, you know, to ask them, when is something good enough? When can they let go of it? When can they release the report? When can they send the email? When can they finish their resume? And it's really a practice for perfectionists that they have to develop over time because it doesn't come easily, and it's a habit that they have to break.
Hilarious. Forgive me for interrupting. Hilarious that the very thing that they have to learn, which is patience, is the thing they have to practice to learn it. Right?
Absolutely. Really good point. Really good point.
Thank you so much for that. We've got time for one more delicious question, and Maria, I'm going to throw it to you.
Yes.
You go.
Yeah, and you mentioned about stuck. What advice, what should they do if they did everything, they view the failure differently, they try not to be a perfectionist, and they just don't like their job? What should they do?
So that happens, and that's real life. And what I would say, if you can't get a new job, if you can't look for a new job, I would recommend that people really understand what their strengths are and see if they can adjust their jobs to leverage their strengths perhaps more than they're currently doing. It's a technique called job crafting. And it's really, so let's say that somebody is a project manager, but they really like to do social media. So perhaps they volunteer for a project internally where they can get some experience doing social media. Or they go to their manager and they say, look, I'm really good at social media. Is there something that I can do to help the group that can utilize social media or coaching people internally? So it's really about knowing what they're good at, what they really get energy from, and seeing if they can work some of those strengths by reframing and reshaping the job that they have to make it something that they like doing better.
That's just good advice. The book is Ditch Your Inner Critic, Evidence-Based Strategies to Thrive in Your Career. The woman is Susan Peppercorn, and you can find her on the web by going to positiveworkplacepartners.com. That's positiveworkplacepartners.com. And you've got a giveaway for our listeners today.
I absolutely do, and on my website I have a career fit self-assessment. So it's called Are You in the Right Job? And it's a workbook based upon the exercises in Ditch Your Inner Critic at Work. It's a free download, so anybody who goes to my website, listeners of this podcast, can just go on my website and download it, and they can use it for themselves or with their clients.
Beautiful. That's very kind of you. Once again, positiveworkplacepartners.com/right job to find the Are You in the Right Job free career fit assessment from Susan Peppercorn. Susan, thank you so much for being with us. Do you have a quick 20-second parting thought or parting shot you'd like to give our coach listeners?
Just for coaches, be aware that if you're working with someone who has a really negative mindset or is dealing with, you are their lifeline, and they can get there with your support. Just don't expect it out overnight.
It's a beautiful reminder. Thank you so much. That's Susan Peppercorn. The book is Ditch Your Inner Critic, Evidence-Based Strategies to Thrive in Your Career. That voice is Maria G. She's available at Maria G Coaching. That's MariaJICoaching.com. Maria, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. Thanks, Christopher.
It was a delight to have you. And thank you, dear listener, for listening to another edition of The Coaching Show, each week bringing you people out on the cutting edge of coaching and leading and just plain interesting folks. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you next week.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground?